Hello, I'm Jackie Garvin, and welcome to Syrup and Biscuits in the Kitchen. This is our first official Syrup and Biscuits video, and we hope it's going to be the first of many to come. I've got lots of good stories to share with you about the food that I cook. Got lots of good recipes that are just plain, simple, honest, down-home, good cooking. And when it comes right down to it, that's why people like to cook in their kitchens on Tuesday night. Something easy and quick and simple. And if it's a recipe that has a good food story wrapped around it, that makes it even better. In addition to my recipes, I'm going to be sharing with you my apron collection. And I'm starting out with this apron. This apron was designed by Now Designs. And it's an apron that my husband and I purchased at Mass General Store in Greenville, South Carolina when we were there on a visit. And I just love the little print of this apron. Now, the first recipe that I chose for you has special meaning for me. It's chicken and dumplings, a southern iconic dish. And the reason I chose chicken and dumplings, not so much because it's a southern iconic dish, because here I call myself a southern cook. I couldn't make chicken and dumplings for years. I struggled for years trying to make chicken and dumplings. My husband would tease me and call it chicken and dumpling, because all my dumplings would meld together and I'd have one big pot of messy dumpling. And y'all, that troubled me. It troubled me. I was so concerned because I couldn't make chicken and dumplings, but I forced myself to come up with a foolproof method. And making chicken and dumplings successfully is as much technique as it is recipe. But I got it all figured out. I'm going to show you. So, chicken and dumplings, good chicken and dumplings, will only be as good as your chicken stock is good. So you've got to have good chicken stock. Now earlier in the day, I already prepared my chicken stock and I already picked the meat off of one chicken and I've got that waiting for us. I'll be happy to share my recipe for chicken stock with you. It's posted on my Syrup and Biscuits fan page on Facebook. Whatever you think is good chicken stock, whatever that means to you, that's what you want to do. If you have your own recipe, use that. If you want to use a commercially prepared brand of chicken stock, that's fine too. There's actually some good boxed chicken stocks available now. I make my own, and I have it on my Syrup and Biscuits, the recipe on my Syrup and Biscuits fan page on Facebook, and you're more than happy to do that. And really, y'all, making chicken stock is so easy. If you'll just do it one time, you'll never go back to anything else. It's throwing stuff in a pot, covering it with water, and simmering it for a while. That's what it comes down to. And the bonus is that you just have this wonderful, homey goodness smell wafting throughout your whole house. It's just great. Okay, now that's the chicken stock. Now we're going to talk about the dumplings. It has two ingredients: a baking mix, and I like the kind that makes quick biscuits, and buttermilk. That's it. This baking mix and buttermilk are two of my favorite things in the kitchen anyway. I just think they're wonderful, and to use them both together in one dish, we can't go wrong. We cannot go wrong. To make one batch of dumplings, I start off with 2 cups of baking mix, and then I'm going to add in somewhere around 3/4 of a cup of buttermilk. You just make a hole in the center of your baking mix, and then just start mixing it in. Now I like to use my hands to mix it, for no other reason other than I just like to know how it's feeling. And after you've done this enough, you'll get a feel for exactly how much buttermilk you need and exactly when you need to put in some more baking mix. And just keep tossing it around. Don't worry about it spilling on your counter, because you're going to have to throw some down on your counter anyway before you turn your dough out on it. It's no problem. Now, when you get it mixed up, it's still going to be kind of sticky, and then we're going to put a lot of the baking mix down on the counter too, and keep working with it until we get it the consistency that we like. My granny was my inspiration for cooking, and I mean, among other things that she cooked really well, dumplings was one of them. You have to kind of clean your hands off a little bit as you go along too. That's just part of it. Okay, I think I've got my dough about where it needs to be. Now, I'm going to pour some baking mix down here. Just throw it out on the counter, top, and then turn your dough out. And now we're going to knead it about 4 or 5 times. Put a little bit more baking mix on it if you need to, if it's still sticky. And I have never, some people I have seen make dough and their hands are completely clean. Obviously, I have not figured out how to do that yet. My hands still stay messed up. That's all right. So we're going to knead it. We're going to pull it over, turn it a quarter of a turn. Same process, and just keep putting dough up on it as you need it, as you need to knead. I love how that works out that way. My granny was my inspiration for cooking. I mean, the woman, I don't think she ever made a bad meal in her life. Everything she cooked was just wonderful. So, and I used to help her make dumplings when I was a little girl. She would cut the dumplings, and then she would let me drop the dumplings into the hot stock. But, you know, I never really paid attention to how she was making the dumplings until I got a little bit older. So after I got to the age where I was interested in learning how to make dumplings, I said to her one day, Granny, I want you to teach me how to make dumplings. And she said to me, Shug, you just go on down to the store, get you some of them flour tortillas, use them. They're just as good as dumplings and way under less trouble than dumplings. So by the time I got to the point in my life where I was interested in learning some of her techniques, she always started looking for shortcuts. So I never learned exactly from her how she made her dumplings. I know she mixed them up like biscuit dough, and she would use flour and baking powder, maybe baking soda, and some buttermilk. So now we're going to start to roll them out. And you don't want to make them too thin, because then they will fall apart. You don't want them to be too thick, because then they'll be bloppy. So it's kind of like Goldilocks. It has to be just right. And somewhere between 1/8 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch is what I consider to be just right. Let's try to get it a little bit more like a square, because then it makes it easier to cut. Okay. Now I like to use a pizza cutter to cut this. And let me put my rolling pin up here so you can see. And then I kind of square off my dough, because it's going to make it easier to measure out. You want all your dumplings to be a uniform size so they'll all cook about the same amount of time. So I've just squared mine off. Actually, it's oblong, it's not square. And then I want them to be about 2 by 2 inches. So I'm just going to start here and just start measuring off 2 inches, 2 inches, 2 inches, and then measure off 2 inches going this way, which is about 2 inches, 2 inches, all the way down. Okay, and then we're just going to cut them. Now my grandmother used a knife. She never owned a pizza cutter. Probably didn't even know what a pizza cutter was, and that's just fine. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. Yeah, there we have it. You know, I've got these little scraps. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of the Biscuit up here on these so I can pile them up and have them not stick. And actually, you can make your dumplings, just roll them out, make them a little bit earlier in the day, because actually having them dry out some will help them hold together a little bit better once you drop them into the stock. And then I'm going to take these few little scraps here. All right, now this is an important part of the technique here. You need to get your stock back to a full rolling boil, and then you take dumplings one by one. You can't glob them all in there at one time. Drop it down into the eye of the boil. That's what my granny called it, the eye of the boil. Drop it down in there, one by one. All right, so you drop all your dumplings in one by one into the eye of the boil. Don't stir, just push them down, push them down, push them down, push them down. That's really important. Put the chicken back in, all the chicken meat back in, and then you're going to push the chicken meat down in there too. Now that they're all in there, you want to put the lid back on. Excuse me. Put the lid back on, and these will continue to cook for about 10 to 15 minutes until they're tender. And then when you come back, we're going to have hot chicken and dumplings ready. Hey, welcome back. You're just in time, and I've got 2 surprises for you. The first, I want to show you what it's like for me cooking in the kitchen being a Basset Hound owner. I want you to see, look what we've got. Look what we've got, chicken and dumplings. Real chicken and dumplings. Now, my grandmother would put boiled eggs in the chicken and dumplings. I don't do that, not because I don't like the taste, just because I just don't think it's necessary. But this is good old-fashioned, plain, simple chicken and dumplings. Now, I think chicken and dumplings need a good bit of black pepper. That's just my taste preference. And you want the dumpling to be a little bit toothsome. You don't want it to be mushy. You want it to be just a little bit toothsome. So let's see how well I did. Y'all, you gotta do it. You gotta do it. If I can make chicken and dumplings, anybody can make chicken and dumplings. So that's it for our first video of Serpent Biscuits in the kitchen. Thank you so much for all the support that you've given me already. I have absolutely been just blown away and so humbled by people being so kind and sweet and supportive of what I'm doing with Serpent Biscuits. I hope Serpent Biscuits can be a bright spot in your day. Y'all come see us.